So as you see, I have a double role here today. Officially, I'm from JKU, but unofficially, I'm also from the University of Applied Sciences and working together with Oliver. So basically, what I would like to shortly discuss with you today is, rather I would like to introduce, is the concept of subject orientation, or also called subject-oriented business process management, and then think about how you could use this approach for supply chain design and execution. So where is sustainability in this title? Actually, I wrote the proposal, and when I prepared the slides, I came up, okay, sustainability is missing, so of sure, at the end, I will try to provide the link to sustainability. So let's start. I've rather a IT background, so I've a background in business information systems. And if you look at all these trends within the last, let's say, 15 years or even 20 years, you come across buzzwords like IoT, Logistics 4.0, Industry 4.0, or even at CeBIT, there was the new concept of Society 5.0, which all aim to digitalize our private and our professional lives even more and more. So digitalization really penetrates our everyday life. And I'm really happy that Eva provided the link for me, because we saw before that even in her domain it's a trend in logistics, digitalization. But why is it this way? So we have new sensor technologies that allow us to get informed about certain states. For example, you know where a package is, you know the location, you even know the condition, and really can connect these sensor technologies to your processes to get at the end a full visibility from your end-to-end supply chains. So the idea is really to have transparency across the whole supply chain, to be better informed, to know what's going on, and to be able to analyze what are my problems, where do I have to take actions, and to optimize your processes. And recently we have advances in technologies like robotics, where you have robots that help to maybe pack or unpack, or that unload trucks, and even a recent trend also in Upper Austria, autonomous driving within the mobility sector. But not only the automation plays a crucial role, but also new ways of interacting with technology. So for example, you have speech recognition, which everyone knows of you, to support your working procedures. Also, new innovative production technologies like 3D printing really change the way we produce and also how we ship products. So there's really a transformation in recent years, but still there are some challenges that need to be met when we digitalize all these procedures. For example, these are just some points. An issue is the integration of these supply chains. You have different actors along a supply chain, and they need to integrate their processes. So you, on the one hand side, need to align the different process actors in terms of their behavior, but also you need to have the adequate IT support to really enable these end-to-end digital supply chains. Another point is, as I said, for example, automation, but also if you have this data at hand, the means to analyze them, really to gain insights of what's happening and to use these insights to better ship, for example, your packages. So these are recent trends in digitalization of supply chains, but what the hell does this got to do with S-BPM and sustainability? So the basic question is, how could S-BPM help with respect to the digitalization of supply chains in my talk? So now I've been talking, let's say, 4 minutes about S-BPM, but let's start from the scratch. What is S-BPM about? Basically, it's an approach from the field of business process management, which was founded by Albert Fleischmann in 1993 and emerged around 2000 in this field and became an emerging concept in this community, which is similar to BPM approaches, where you say, okay, you have some kind of process analysis, then you model your processes, and the very good thing at subject orientation is the notation this approach provides allows you to generate, based on these models, software components that allow you really to play through your processes and to check, to validate, are the processes correct? Do they have any issues still, in order then to optimize them before you implement them, before you integrate it with your existing IT landscape. So basically, this approach, on the one hand side, emphasizes really the stakeholder engagement in the early phases, so in analysis and modeling. The idea is really to take the people sitting in the work procedures, involve them in the modeling process in order to, on the one hand side, to gain a common understanding of how we work, but also to align issues that arise when people work together. And all of you have worked together in companies before, and you know that communication is really a crucial issue if you negotiate something. And if you have all these parts at hand, then you are able also to use this IT support to monitor, for example, based on KPIs, what's going on there. So that's the very basic frame for subject-oriented process management. But what I would like to also introduce is, how do I model these processes, these working procedures, and what is this idea of subject orientation? Basically, two views on processes in subject orientation exist. The one thing is the communication view, which is subjects like the asker or the responder communicating with each other. So you have the participants of a certain process, the asker on the left-hand side, and the messages they exchange. That's not the relevant diagram here. The relevant thing is that you, as an actor in a process, you describe your behavior from your point of view. So having the asker, you say, okay, what is the asker doing in this process? And you have 3 different types of modeling elements at hand to use to describe his behavior. You say, okay, the asker actually thinks about his question and formulates the question. So he's performing some kind of activity. He's doing something. And having this question formulated, he then sends the question, he actually asks the responder the formulated question, and then stops and waits until he receives the answer from the responder. So it's quite similar to emailing. You do something, you send a message, you receive a message. That would be analog to email. But the crucial point is really to have this description of the internal behavior. You have the modularization of and encapsulation of the behavior, and can interchange this in case the messages, the interface remains the same. So having this modeling notation, what we did at Johannes Kepler University is we tried to develop methodologies for collaborative modeling and for stronger stakeholder engagement in modeling procedures. So we experimented on the one hand side with card-based modeling techniques which you can take, but then someone needs to translate into your digital models before you can generate some kind of software. But in the next step, we said, okay, couldn't we have something smart for collaborative process designs? And for that reason, we actually developed interactive modeling tables where you can model your process with tangible blocks. So you have here at the left-hand side, you see you have different kind of modeling elements. So for example, the yellow ones are the ones where you have activities, the red ones are sending, and the green ones are receiving activities. So you really can come together at such a table, bring together relevant stakeholders of a process, negotiate the part, how it should work, how they communicate, and at the right-hand side here you see the product. So the first one until here is research-based, and then we had a cooperation with the company Metasonic, which at the end came up with this more professional table, but we built this ourselves, so that was really handcrafted. But what's the advantage of this approach? The advantage is having this kind of models as a result of the workshops. You can have some kind of, let's say, software in between that translates you this model to executable software. So still there is some configuration work in between, but for example, in a rather Industry 4.0 related project, we use this method to digitalize the shop floor of a Slovakian company, and also in an Italian company we provided, for example, process support in the quality area and for quality checking. And that turned out to work very well. 5 minutes left? Okay. So then I will be faster in talking about what we did here. Maybe just a link that in this project, what I was referring to is we also investigated the integration of sensors. So this integration of different control levels in organizations was a vital point in the project, because we said, okay, from our ERP system up down to some kind of sensor measuring power consumption, we want to have the whole visibility, and referring to end-to-end supply chains or sustainability, we want to have means that enable us, for example, to get an idea of the carbon footprint of a certain production process. That could be enabled, and we said, okay, let's use common industrial standards to reach this integration. And therefore we have used some standards which I'm sure you do not know. That's the reason why I will not explain them, and the reason why also the time is short. So summarizing, how could now S-BPM help regarding the digitalization of supply chains? One could say, okay, it's a generic modeling approach. Actually, it's domain agnostic, which allows you to support process workshops and to translate working procedures into software in a stakeholder-oriented manner. So really this point of describing your behavior from your point of view in the processes, involving the domain experts to reach a higher acceptance is a vital point of this approach. And if you, for example, look at initiatives like ALICE related to the physical internet, subject orientation could enable digital interconnectivity between different systems, also across different actors in such systems, but also in terms of operative interconnectivity, in terms of aligning the procedures between them. So I promised to say something about sustainability, and actually I did some research or even a short literature review on what is there in the domain of subject orientation. Since I'm working, I think, the last 8 years in this field, actually I knew that there is no literature targeting sustainability or sustainable process design. That's the reason why I had to go rather to the field of business process management and information systems research, where I found some papers referring to the link between process designs and sustainability. And actually, what is the link? A lot of research has been done in the green IT sector. So as we had the comment before to the Borealis keynote, things like how can we make our server farms using lower energy, how can we use the heat they produce to again generate electricity. These are things you could use as enabling technology when you digitalize these processes. And another possibility, if we have a look, for example, at the presentation of Eva, we could use this approach to model such transportation changes, the intermodality with the approach, and to have IT support for sustainable transport processes. The other point was that Opitz et al. They developed a, let's say, green business process management readiness model, which takes into account also the organizational setting. They say, okay, you need to have the sustainability or the thinking related to sustainability embodied in the heads of your employees. So you need to have the right green attitude. You need to know what is your green strategy. You need to know how you come operationalize your strategy in terms of the governance related to it. But you also need to think about how can I embody sustainability aspects or performance indicators for sustainability in my processes. So to this regard, you need to think about what are these key ecological factors that process designers should consider in order to be able to then analyze, for example, the carbon footprint along the whole supply chain. And having these key ecological indicators, also be able to monitor them and to optimize your processes. And also the new sensor technologies, they allow to automatically capture what's happening. So for example, in this Slovakian case, we had a power meter integrated in the process, and we knew the power consumption necessary for producing a certain part. But that's rather in the industry context. So some last words. How many minutes? 2 minutes. Okay, 2 minutes. So inspiring the S-BPM community, or at least this work inspired me to submit for the next S-BPM conference a paper on sustainability to position this topic there. I will somehow try to give them a research agenda to think about how they could incorporate such key ecological indicators in this approach, but also maybe I would like to see some design patterns in this direction to get an idea what is sustainable process design. And then a second point would also be, let's say, the interdisciplinary discussion on how we can measure along the supply chain sustainability, to have the same measures and not different measures, to be able to compare them. And one thing maybe that also could be interesting, how you can embody this social dimension. For example, in this project, we experimented with a ring measuring the physical condition of a worker, and there you could think about how you can use such devices to make the life of the worker better, for example, in terms of reducing stress levels, changing tasks. So I would like to thank you for your attention, and I'm open to questions, and thanks very much.